Oh my God. Okay. Well, let me see.
What's up, everybody? Hope you're all doing fantastic. I know I am because we've got quite the treat for you today. Joining us, we have Grammy award-winning Canadian singer and songwriter Alessia Cara. Alessia just released her third studio album called In the Meantime on September 24th, and she's here with us today to chat all about it. Alessia, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to get the chance to chat about your music.
Thanks for having me on.
Speaking of your new album, In the Meantime, on Twitter, you shared that the meaning of the album is about what you've been up to in the meantime between life and death, which is an ongoing period of time right now, and that there's a lot of symbolism about the album. So can you give us a little insight and tell us what exactly you have been up to in the meantime?
So I think the meantime, I mean, in a more obvious way, it just represents like the meantime of like stop that the world was in. We were all kind of in like a little life purgatory for a second. So this album's like, here's what I've been up to in the meantime, but also through like being faced with a lot of like tragedy in this last year and stuff, and just seeing how short life is, I kind of realized that like all life kind of is like a little meantime between birth and death in a sense. And it's like, not to get like too deep about it all, but I mean, it just kind of means like, to me, it's like life is made up of like little meantimes, and like the meantime between like childhood and adulthood, and the meantime between like pain and healing. And there's always like, we're always in some sort of transition. That's kind of what it meant for me. And that's, a lot about what the songs kind of talk about.
I love that. It's a very interesting way of looking at it. And it is true. We're always kind of in the meantime of some sort of transition. So starting this new era, you also mentioned this is the best thing that you've made so far, and you've made some great music. So how does this album specifically differ from your previous music, and why do you think it's so special?
I let loose a lot emotionally and sonically. Even I feel like I just like wasn't as afraid to try different things or say different things on this album as much as I have been in the past. So it just felt like really free. And I think because I made it during a pandemic and I did a lot of it remotely, I was just kind of like in the comfort of my own space, and so I was just like more free with it, I guess. And I don't know, I just feel really proud of it.
In July, prior to the release, you dropped two songs that are on the album, Sweet Dream and Shapeshifter. You talk about the recurring theme of duality in this album and why you released the two very different songs that are somewhat contrasting. So can you get into how this particular theme of duality translates throughout your whole album?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, this album kind of talks about like a transition between pain and healing. And so I think, a lot of the first half of this album I wrote in a time where I was just feeling really down, and I was like spiraling emotionally and mentally and physically. There's like that darker side of things. As I kind of went through this process of healing and, recovering from a lot of what I was going through, I think a lot of like more positive, hopeful songs kind of came out of it. So there's like a side of the album that feels really confident and fun and sort of just a lot more forward than a lot of my songs have been. And then there's also like a side that feels very emotional and heavy and more introspective. So there's kind of like two sides of one coin, I guess.
One thing about you as an artist is that a lot of your music is very rooted in, raw personal themes, experiences, and always has a deeper meaning. So I want to know what your writing process is like. How do you go about taking these personal experiences and connecting it into your music?
I guess, I mean, I try to like write from a way that is more like sensory and more like with my gut rather than with my head. I feel like if I'm thinking too much, then I'll like water down what I'm trying to say. So I think for me, the process is just like the first thing that comes to mind, like trying to allow for like instinct to come through rather than like too much thought. So yeah, that's kind of just like how I do it. And I try to just be as honest as possible, because you can always like, if there's something that's too real or too honest, you can remove it. So I always just like put all of it there and then see if I need to remove anything. But then oftentimes you find that you don't usually remove anything because it's the way that it needs to be.
It's awesome. Now that the world is slowly but surely returning to in-person concerts and that sort of thing, are you planning on going on tour, or do you have any live shows coming up?
I haven't like found any dates or anything or venues. We haven't planned any of that actually yet, just because like we have no idea what's going to happen. But hopefully soon we'll like, actually get into some proper conversations about what the next year is going to look like. But I have a couple things planned, like some filmed stuff that hopefully I can get out to the fans in a virtual way. But until then, I don't know. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Before we get into our last little bit, I have one question. You're from Brampton, you grew up there, and it's sort of an ongoing thing that people from Toronto are always dissing Brampton because, they're not from there. So I just want to clear up those preconceived misunderstandings and ask you, what are your three favorite things about the city?
Oh my God. Okay. Well, let me see. There's not much.
Okay, This next band is from Brampton.
Well, the first thing, I really love that I was able to like grow up around so many different cultures. I feel like Brampton is like such a huge melting pot and like mosaic of cultures and religions. And like I just grew up around so many different people, so many different kinds of people. And I love that because now, through traveling in the States a lot and around the world, I feel like I'm, well versed in like, being surrounded by different people. I'm glad that we grew up that way. And I'm glad that we had it instilled in us from a young age to like be accepting and like, have that normalcy of like being around different people. Another thing, let me see. I like Bramley Mall.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that.
Best mall in the world. That's a thing that I'm grateful for. I killed a lot of time there in my teen years. There's some good food. It's like a lot of franchisey stuff. Maybe Sonny's. I think it's like the oldest burger place in the province or something like that. It's like a cute little niche spot. I really love it though. It's really good. I haven't been there in a minute.
Well, before we end off, I was thinking we could create a little playlist together. But more specifically, I want to know your guilty pleasure songs. What is something you love listening to that people wouldn't expect from you?
My guilty pleasure songs. Okay. Well, I feel like I'm not guilty for listening to anything because I love all of them. And it doesn't mean that this stuff is not good, but maybe it's not something people would expect. I love going back to like old early 2000s stuff. I listen to a lot of like Hilary Duff.
Nice.
Like her Metamorphosis album.
Oh, that's a good one.
What's like the best song off of that record? Probably So Yesterday. That's a great one. Something people might not expect. I listen to a lot of Tribe Called Quest. So I really like Check the Rhyme. I like to rap it and pretend that I'm one of them. I'm trying to think of other stuff that might not be like expected. Oh, I love listening to bossa nova music. Okay. So there's an artist called João Gilberto that I really love. I have like all of his songs. I have like a lot of his records on vinyl. And I mean, I love Brazilian music. So that's the thing that I really love that people might not expect.
A lot of variety here. I like it.
Yeah, there's tons of variety. You know the song How Bizarre? How Bizarre? I play that a lot because I don't know, when I'm like in the mood for it.
That's a quirky song. I wouldn't have expected anyone to say that one. And I didn't even know that was like a full song. I was just like, that's a TikTok song.
Is it on TikTok?
Yeah, that was a pretty big trend. People would just be like, how bizarre, how bizarre. How bizarre,
how bizarre. I feel like I don't know any other songs by that band except for that song. And I just play it when I just feel like listening to it. And it's funny. It's the weirdest song ever, but that's one thing people might not expect. Oh, I love like the Wicked soundtrack, the song The Wizard and I. It's like very Broadway and I listen to it all the time, like for leisure, and it's my favorite thing ever.
Fantastic.
Not expect this.
Honestly, these are all amazing. I love it. This was great. Thank you, Alessia. It's been great chatting with you, and very looking forward to hopefully some live shows, and congratulations on your album.
Thank you so much. Yeah, me too. I hope I get to do some live stuff soon. Thank you.